Man, welcome in everyone to Mindset Matters to Heart. This is the Fresh Talks Global Vision. And, Dirk and I are in the green room just jabbering. And this series has been really heartfelt in a way of, I didn't realize how much it was going to transform me, even as a leader. I'm like, even leader, like little old me, a leader, but I'm starting to be bold about what I'm feeling and helping people even start podcasts, and I'm just starting to interact, and it's really been helping me grow my business too, because I'm able to get out there and really share like these 7 years of running podcasts in various ways. And I want this for you out there, that when you start stepping into things, you better be ready for changes to happen, and that means really step out there. A lot of days, I got to tell you, I feel scared. There's so much, and Dirk and I were just talking about this. There's so much exposure in what we're doing out there. I think owning a mom and pop store, there's exposure because you're just trying to get people there and you're trying to do your marketing. Online, there's so many people that have their vision of like how they can break you down. One time I had somebody say, I want to know how your day was because I want to know what I don't want to do. And I was like, oh, here, wait, was he being nice or being mean? I was
Right.
like, it was that bad. It was like a slap in the face. And so I think about how can we get out there and really feel badass and step into everything, the reason why you're here on earth. Express yourself that feels in a way that feels authentic. And if we keep opening our heart, which is the Mindset Matters to Heart, everything's going to be all right, because you authentically get to break those patterns, the stuff that has been happening forever, that you're like, Harry, I'm tired of hearing that cycle, because you're on a new path. You're on a path of discovering how happy you can be. I mean, isn't it scary to be happy? Because if you're a person that feels like, here, wait, that's too happy, that means, the other side, there's that equal, and you're looking to try and find what's going to drop. And that's what people talk about it all the time. They're like, well, why do you care about not wanting to have success? Because you're being successful right now. So what's the problem? If you have an area in your life that you've been hiding from, like just like totally, like, I don't want people to know this about myself. And it could be just that, you're a badass, or that you think you're the queen of something. And that can be vulnerable. I'm bringing this stuff up because I want to talk about, because I think it's a big part of our conversation. Because I'm going to introduce you to Dirk Schultz, and we were talking about books, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to bring my book up. And the reason why is, come on, everybody who's authors or people that are getting out there speaking more, being more vulnerable, being more yourself. It's that when I did this book about 15 years ago, I was scared. And it was about just being a health coach, and what I do for 6 months. And then there was this gratitude chapter, and it was about my family and I. And that was the most proud part that I had in like the whole thing. But once I pressed done, everything that I was thinking about when I was writing this book, I felt very scared. So think about, because Dirk's book is going to be the third thing I want to step in. So this is the first book. Now I'm getting a little bit more bolder. And so then I write a book called 14 Days to a Flat Belly. Now, this freaks me out because I'm like, oh, what is everybody going to think? That I think that you can actually have a flat belly within 14 days. And I go, well, let's repurpose that. Why am I saying that? I wouldn't change the title. But you know what I did? I put it off to the side. And like a year or 2 years later, somebody said, do you want to write a book? And I said, no. You're right, I already have a book. And they're like, okay. Told them the name, and they said, why do you not have that out? I don't know. So we run away from things that move things forward, and there's many reasons why. That's why Mindset Matters to Heart is a step that you can do to everything that you're doing to find out where's your heart hiding and where can you open it up for up more. Now, Why I'm bringing up this whole author thing is I want you to remember anytime you write or you do a video or you're meeting somebody new or you're growing your business, that something can stop you. So I want to introduce Dirk because I want to get in there because it's going to help you get to know him more and know why he's here. Dirk Schultz. Dirk, welcome in.
Rhonda, thank you so much for having me in. I love what you're doing. And I love that you're putting yourself out there. It's inspiring to me and so many other people, I'm sure. Uh, we've known each other for quite a few years, been in the same masterminds, and it's been a real pleasure to witness the work that you do and your growth. So thank you for having me here.
I appreciate that.
Uh,
Dirk, let's get in there and talk about your book because I think that's the first step into really understanding your story. So that is beautiful. So gay, gray, fit.
Benefit after 50.
So
I happen
tell
to be all of those.
that you happen to be all of them. I know. Look at those beautiful arms. It's so cute. You're like, oh, yeah, I just happen to be. But that gay word. Can
Yeah.
we talk about that? I mean, tell me about the book. Tell me about your journey around this.
Well, it's funny because when we were talking earlier, I I'm so with you on putting your intellectual property out there and your thoughts and putting your story out there. It's so vulnerable. This was going to. I had a friend who's a writing coach, Rhonda, approach me and said, "You know, the work that you're doing, you could write a book." I'm like, "Books? Other people do books. I don't do books. I don't have anything to say." Well, 2.5 years later, 2 years later, I have a book. But it was a journey, and as you were saying, to press like send or final edit, I was like, oh shit, it's out there now, right? So when I wrote this, and I went through a bunch of different topics or titles rather, Rhonda,
Yeah.
it was I landed on. I met with some people in my community. I'm in Palm Springs, and we had a lot of fun creating different names. And gay, gray, and fit after 50 just resonated. It described it all. It's a holistic fitness guide for gay men over 50. But I always say that you don't have to be gay, gray, or over 50 to benefit from the wisdom in the book. Um, but the word gay, Rhonda, we were talking about that, was always, it was hard for me. I had my own internal homophobia that I had to deal with. And that held me back. That held me back from coming out. That held me back from a lot of social engagements because I grew up with the mindset or a living in belief or fixed mindset of what are people going to think? People
Yeah.
are going to judge you. What are people going to think? And that paralyzed me a lot as an adult, running off that narrative. What are people going to think?
Yeah.
So putting the word gay out there took a little bit. Right now,
Mm.
I embrace my homosexuality. I embrace being a gay man over 50 and all that goes along with it. It has been a great journey, and it's fun to help others in the community live their best badass life. So
Well, I bet that you're even a role model in some ways because you did take some steps to get there. And so we're always looking at you like, what have I been able to clear at this point? There's going to be those people who are still in that gap and figuring that out
totally.
for themselves. The What did you learn and how did it up level you in being in that book and taking care of yourself while you're releasing this information? Like, what'd that do for you?
No, that's a great question. Um, the book, writing of the book, the process, that was going to be a 6 month process, 2 years. There's a couple of things that come up for me, Rhonda. One is I wanted this to really represent myself and support the gay community. In the first couple of editions or um, edits didn't feel right. So one thing I leaned into was trusting my own intuition and gut that when it didn't feel right, I would go back and say, this is not quite right. So it built my confidence and my trust. And it's also putting my story out there and giving people permission to live authentically. right?
Mm.
And live their truth. I didn't do that for a long time. I did not do that for a long time. And, you know, in my 50s, how many more summers do I have left? How do I want to live and be present on this earth? And so I gave myself permission to be vulnerable and put things into print. So it gave me the confidence, it gave me courage. It really took the work that I was doing with my clients, Rhonda, and gave it some teeth, if you will. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been fun. It's been fun.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to bring those books out because it's just like so crazy when you just think of just who we are and how that gay word can be
Mm.
so sizzling for some people. And so what you're learning now that you have the book out, any kind of learnings once that got released, and maybe more people, maybe your clients leaning in more, maybe um, newer clients because they were like feeling more trust from you. And I mean, I feel like there's something about that vulnerability and growing and opening yourself up.
Well, yeah, it did. It's funny. Some people fell away. Some people didn't embrace the book, um, friends or family members, and some people really stepped in and were. I think they felt more seen, too. Like I could
Hmm.
relate to them because through the pages, I don't. I share a lot of my story of growing up in a chaotic household and some other stuff that has gone on and the things I had to work through, and how I had to step. I didn't have to, but I chose to step into a growth mindset to make all this happen. So I think doing the work really gives other people permission to do their own work and know that there's a space or a place here with M3 Holistic Fitness that they can come and be themselves and express themselves. So it's been really, I like to think of like you, Rhonda, we're a lighthouse for a lot of people. You know, we're a lighthouse that people can come to and draw from and give them courage and permission to live authentically. You
Yeah.
know, so the work that you're doing is amazing. And the work that M3 is doing has been both expanding for me and my clients and the community.
Yeah. I am just kind of feeling this out. Can we go in the space around this badass mindset?
Yeah.
There's some things that you do, and some things I probably don't know what you do. So it's interesting how you can combine the mindset clearing along with the workouts, like hey, this is your badass workout. Get clear, get yourself moving just a little bit more intense. I can see that you have that in you. But there's probably other ways that this badass kind of vibe gets going because you're also a health coach. We
Yeah.
both graduated from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I mean,
Yeah.
to bond us that way, it's like, yes. So how does all this work? I want to stay connected with how open you were in writing that book and acknowledging that some people walked away from you, but you knew that there was something new coming in. So I want to kind of play with that, holding that, but a lot of it has to do with, can we talk about like how this badass thing started happening for you?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's funny because, you know, in the past, when people would have fallen to the side or people would have left my my life, I would have taken that so personally. But when you live authentically and you live your truth, you're not going to be appealing to everybody, even family members, right? So I really had to. I owned I owned my truth as a gay man, as a health coach, as someone, an entrepreneur, someone who's building a business and wants to be a part of the community to really empower others to live better year after year.
Hmm.
So, as a trainer, I was always like, I know there's more to this. I know I can give more than what I'm giving. I'm more than just counting reps. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
Yeah.
people would come into my sessions and I'm like, what's going on in your world? Like, what do you want? What does it look like? And what's holding you back? And so, my opinion, when you want to live a badass life, we start with mindset. You can see on the Venn diagram that it is the bigger circle. I always start with mindset because it's so important, right? Because we have to get our mind right to get everything else right. If we have a fixed mindset, if we have a limiting beliefs, which I did, um, I had to do my own clearing to start to step into my own badass life. This is bigger. This is the thread. The mindset is the thread that connects everything together. I can kick your ass. I can do a great workout. But if we're not doing this, if we're not going through and developing the mental muscle, all of this isn't going to matter, right?
Yeah.
And in the Venn diagram, I talk about limited beliefs. I talk about the bullshit that we buy into.
Yeah.
And I think we have to identify that first. First, I think we really need to make a decision to live a badass life. Make that decision.
Wow.
Create the vision. Create a clear vision of what you want, not what society wants, your family wants, your friends say you should do. It's getting real and saying, what do I really, really want? That's a hard question for a lot of people.
Well, that
So,
means getting to know yourself. Can I go back to that
absolutely.
mindset and the connection with the workout?
Oh, absolutely.
Because you're going to great stuff here. I want to go back and hold that space, and we'll just keep moving forward after that. Mindset is interesting because you could be doing workouts where you're really literally actually kicking your ass too much. Like you're not really getting a return on it because mentally you're not nurturing yourself enough to understand that your badass workout also means like there has to be a wholesome thing there. So I can see where the mind can really kick ass where it's tearing things up to nurturing, maybe too much like, oh, maybe I'll just, lift the weight because I want to nurture. Like I think there's extremes there. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I love talking about working out and really mentally how that can affect you. Even if you're kicking your ass, we used to say, if there's no pain, there's no gain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd love to have that conversation that we can get into that broader picture so we understand like where's that mindset out? How does that work with the working out?
Yeah. Let me try to land this because when you say that, my mind starts going in many different directions.
How many
When,
stories you can tell?
what's that?
How many stories you can tell? Like, oh my
Oh,
gosh, I can talk so much about this.
well, there was a book. I didn't read the book, Rhonda, but I love the title. It's not just working out; it's working within. It's not just working out; it's working within. So when people come into my class or a one-on-one, I'm like, "What's going on in your world? What's your intention for this workout? What are you working on, working towards, working through?
Yeah.
Right? What are you working on, working towards, working through? Bring it into the workout because when you move the body, you move the mind. And the other thing is, I ask people like, what does your body need today? Check in? I want you to tell me what does your body need. Give your
Wow.
body what it needs. And if it's a kick-ass workout, awesome. If it's gentle stretch, we know our bodies are so intuitive. They know what they need. And that changes from day to day, minute to minute, hour to hour. It can change. So when someone comes into a session, and I encourage them to check in with themselves outside of the studio as well, I'm asking them, what's my intention? What is my intention for this workout?
Yeah.
What do I want to get out of it?
Yeah.
So intention is a big part of it. And that's the vision that we hold for ourselves for a workout, for our lives, living authentically, living a badass life. What does that all look like? Am I answering the question?
Mm-hmm. You
Yeah.
are. And I
Mindset is
mean,
really so important around the whole thing.
yeah, and what's interesting is you're saying what does your body want? And when somebody's just starting off with you, I could see that being one of the biggest learning curves because we just want somebody to guide us sometimes because that question is actually kind of nerve-wracking, which is great. I love those nerve-wracking, kind of scary, like, oh my gosh, you're asking me that. So I love that. And I can see how that goes in with your meals and your movement. So let's go into it. So you were talking about your whole framing here.
Yeah. So I really started out to find out where someone is on with their mindset. And mindset, as you know, is such a crazy thing. We can have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, and sometimes that changes from day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And it depends on the situation too. We can be very confident in a growth mindset and one arena, but we can be in a fixed mindset in another. So it's really kind of checking in and being aware of, am I in a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? And so when someone comes in, I want to know where they're at. Do they believe they can achieve what the results that they want? Yeah. Or are there some limiting beliefs that we need to challenge? And that's kind of like the bullshit, right? What are the limiting beliefs? What is the narrative? What's going on up here that's going to affect all of this? So I want to know where someone's mindset, what their belief is. Do they believe they can achieve it? And are they willing to learn new things? So, again, I draw on the mindset as being the thread that connects everything together, because it really is.
Yeah.
And then we
I like to call people on their bullshit too.
What's that?
That's bullshit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. There's so many limited beliefs. And Rhonda, I was the king of limited beliefs. Even this morning, like new projects that are coming up, I had limited beliefs around them. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, let me challenge that. Let's see if that's true. Anyway,
during that growth time, Dirk, it just shows up. I tell you. Okay, so let's get into the next thing. I'm excited. I just can't stop talking.
So I go into movement, but movement has twofold. It's the physical movement, it's coming in and the physical movement, but it's also, Rhonda, what's the change? What's the shifts? What's the movements you want to see in your life? It's not just the physical movement, right? And mindset is involved in that. And then meals is twofold as well. Meals is how do we feed our bodies? What are we putting on our plate, right? But it's also, how do we feed ourselves off the plate, right? How are we nourishing our life? What else nourishes us? Our relationships, our career, our spirituality, our relationships, our creativity. All these things, if we're not nourishing ourselves in these areas, it affects us in every area. So it's kind of that balancing act, right?
Yeah. And I love the presentation of that too. Joyce. Thank you so much. She's saying that this is so good. It's coming from the YouTube. Joyce, you just keep adding in. And Joyce, if you have any questions for Dirk, please ask those questions. Dirk, I love that you are talking about food, because I think food is sexy. Like I'm using this whole word because in my books, there's always this sexy, and in my life, when I started writing these books, there were people that were saying, I'm not going to buy that book. And they were a good friend at that time because it says sexy.
Oh,
so yeah, it's great. Like, what? Then don't you want to feel sex? No, sex, no. I mean, stuff like that. So I love that you're saying that we're like this light for people. Joyce, I don't know how about you feel about this, but this is a rock awesome. Just focused in on being your badass self with your meals. What happens? Do you get in there about food and we're already starting to talk about like that connection around the food and stuff like that. But when we're talking about food is like mentally, like we're creating something of being connected with the food, and that food really nurtures your brain and your thoughts and all that. This has to be something that you go in deep about to connect people with their internal self. You're always asking, like, what does your body want? I can see where you're going pretty deep with this one too.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking that question. My quote that I came up with is, how you feed your body is how you feed your mind, and how you feed your mind is how you feed your body, and how you feed both is how you feed your spirit. Does that make sense? So how we're feeding our mind is how we feed our bodies. How we feed our bodies is how we feed our minds, and how we feed both is how we feed our spirit. And I really want to empower people, Rhonda, and you'll get this as an IIN graduate, on bioindividuality. I want to empower people to experiment. And let me back up. We know when we check in what makes our body thrive, what kind of foods, drinks, and we also movement, what makes it thrive, and we also know what makes it sick. Yeah. So give it more of what makes it thrive. And that comes with food, because bioindividuality, as we know, is a unique thing. It's a bioindividual. And one person's food is another person's poison. One person's food is another person's poison. So I don't prescribe or subscribe. I don't say use this type of nutrition plan, use this. I want them to do it on their own. Because when someone says, would you write me up a meal plan? What they're doing is saying, I'm giving you my power. I don't believe enough in myself, and I want you to think for me. I'm like,
Ooh, I like the power with the food. I can feel that because we can be disempowered and empowered around food. Ooh, okay, I
yeah,
got it.
I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to guide you and give you some things like, hydration. Let's talk hydration. Ample amount of vegetables and fruits and vegetables, and then check in and what foods make you thrive and eat
Yeah.
more of those. So yeah, we get into it. And also, again, how do you feed yourself off the plate? How are you nourishing your life with your relationships, career, spirituality, creativity, things like that? So
Hey,
they go hand in hand. And I talk
Dirk,
about mindful eating too, Rhonda, as you
y-
know.
yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, like, but I'm thinking about this. We're bringing up spiritual stuff here, like that your spirit. Where can we go there for a moment? I just kind of want to feel this one out because I love how we're talking like cerebral, we're talking mind, and then all of a sudden you're connecting the food and opening yourself up and how that actually is mind, body, spirit. How far do you go in with your clients about the spirit thing? Because we've already talked about, okay, I'm out there saying, my book is representing something. Now we're talking about spirit too. This is also a sensitive subject for many people. This is incredible. How far do you go in with your clients with that whole mind, body, spirit? Like what's the how deep do you go with the little pinky toe, or you go, let's just go all out and talk about the universe and talk about God because that's what's going to get you your workout? Like, I don't know. How far do you go with this? Get me
It's
going.
yeah. It is really about you know checking in with a person to see how far they want to go,
Yeah.
right? And what language are they using? Because I'm open to it all. Bring it in. Let's work around it. It's a safe space, and
Beautiful.
it's a holistic approach. It is a whole person program.
Yeah.
It's not just like I'm not talking about God. I'm not talking about universe. But if that's what really rocks your world, let's talk about it. I'm open to it.
Yeah.
So I don't push anything on anybody because I'm always learning myself,
Yeah.
right? And it's I'm always curious. I'm always curious. I come from a curious mind and see where they're at and how does that feed their life.
Yeah. I love that. On your right side of your grid, what's on the right side? I see bullshit. What's on the other side?
Oh, over here,
Yeah.
that's bullshit too, because bullshit surrounds us all, right? And
Oh,
and a lot of it is
double bullshit.
double bullshit. And a lot of it is a friend of mine, my writing coach, David Strauss, wrote a book called Energy Vampires. And that's the things in our life that zap us of our energy. Toxic relationships, the food that we eat, not moving enough, things
Yeah.
like that, or the narrative or the stories we buy into up here
Yeah.
that are bullshit stories or limited
Yeah.
beliefs. So I want people to be aware that just because we're like, I want to have a growth mindset, doesn't mean you're always in a growth mindset. It's a
Yeah.
spectrum, right? This
Yeah.
is this is developing a mental muscle. And I want your listeners to understand too that it is not a one and done thing. People don't come into my studio and they work out once a year and they're fit for the year. It is a conscious choice of asking yourself, what do I want? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And it should fire them up. But just know that some of the bullshit is going to challenge that vision.
Yeah.
And that's where living a badass life, you are committed. You are so into that vision for yourself that you're like Teflon. No matter what comes at you, it's sliding off, right? And that is really being authentic and living a badass life.
Well, we know that you're doing the work. Like I'm doing the work too, like the stuff that I'm doing. I'm like, okay, so I'm meditating, I'm working out, I'm finding my body, my inner strength, I'm finding my bullshit. But you were even talking about something that showed up this morning. The same thing, because it's a human condition
Oh,
that you're like, here, I'm up leveling in certain areas and the bullshit's going to come in. Okay, how's it going to come in? Instead of like what you said, this is a life plan and let's have fun with this. Let's not think it's like all this work and just, kicking your butt and stuff. There's the thing about falling in love with what this is truly all about so that you can be there and like be happy when you call yourself out. You're like, oh, wait, I just said that I hate myself. You're like, but I didn't. My words, but something just happened here. And that's where everything I get, it's like we're learning to be in truth with ourselves so that our brain and our heart really get very cohesive
oh
with
yeah.
you with that. So I'm seeing the body, mind, and spirit and how you're working that. What do you want out of when somebody opens up that book? There's probably testimonials, people you're talking to, but for you, when you put that book out there, there are probably so many things that you wanted people to get from it. Could we talk about that as we're tailing off on the latter part of our conversation?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
you wanted people to get out of it because you're experiencing it as you're going along, and then what you're finding that as people are picking up and getting to know your story, getting to know what the badass lifestyle really is. So the first question is, what did you want people to get out of it when you hit send?
Great question. The first thing that comes up, Rhonda, is um, I wanted people to know they can empower themselves to live a badass life. This is a guide to kind of give them permission to, even though you're 50 and our society is like body beautiful and youth and all this, that we have stories, that we have experiences that if we stay in that growth mindset, that we can be learning and growing and evolving for a long, long time. And it's going to help us live the strongest, happiest, healthiest life for as long as we can. So it helps, a growth mindset helps with longevity. So I really wanted to empower people, as I always say in my class, empower people to live better year after year. So it's given them some guides, and it's not saying you should do this or do this. It's a guide, and I want
Yeah.
people to give themselves permission to take the information and create what they feel is their badass life, because everybody's different. Everybody has a different lens of what does badass mean for me, and also give themselves permission to go there, to define that. And this is one, you have one life,
Yeah.
make it count. We know this. But a lot of times we play around like it's a dress rehearsal,
Right.
right? And so I really want to encourage people to sit down and say, what do I want? What do I want this next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years to look like? Right? And get busy. And
Yeah.
this is all great,
Yeah.
right? But we have to have the belief and we have to have the action behind all that
Yeah.
to make it happen.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I saw this video of a 103-year-old woman, and she has a 10-year plan from there.
Yeah,
I think about when I first transitioned off of medicine. Since I was 14, I worked out just easy. It's part of my life. And there was like 1 year out of my whole life that I was going through something and I just kind of like I just didn't. But I mean, since I was 14 and I'm mid 50s, I'm like, that's cool because it's always been a big part of my life. So when I got off of medicine, I had to deal with some stuff of stepping in with my bullshit. And it was about gaining weight overnight pretty much. My medicine was helping my metabolism and, helping my thyroid. But I knew that that weight gain, I needed to get there and understand what that story was. As a health coach, there were so many people that just stopped talking to me or, just kind of gave me that really cold shoulder. And I didn't stop there. I was like, this is actually talking to me. I need to understand what this story is. And I got to get a step ahead of it and start talking about everything I talked about before. When I was just all tight, put together, and I'm like, this is where I'm at right now. Like, this is when I didn't give myself the ability to even enjoy what my body looked like, except off and on. You see a magazine, you go, oh yeah, and you feel like you're part of something. But for the most part, I was tearing myself up. When I gained all that weight, I had some sad moments and was very upset, but I was like, this is what I thought I looked like many times. Okay. So that put me into the forefront of how do I speak about this and how do I get deeper into my heart? Because I was talking bad about people in my mind. I don't know about outside, but people that were working out and still had more weight on them. I'm like, oh, yeah, I wish, and you know what I said, Dirk? I wish I could gain that weight so then I could, show people like this is the ego, show people how it
Oh
is,
yeah.
and then I was like, oh yeah, that's not working. That's not shifting me and motivating me. So I came down to the fact of this is what I'm working through. And the more that I get to sleep, we talked about the sleep deprivation
Mm,
and,
right.
and feeling safe and what a lot of connection with sleeping, but also that the more that I get in my truth, the more slender I get and toned inside. And I know that the nervous system really creates a lot of protein and it's kind of our own pharmaceutical kind of a thing, just kind of things, but it helped me study deeper as a health coach. But
Yeah.
it got me in and talking to those people that maybe wanted to see themselves, maybe they thought they were bigger than what they really were because we look in the mirror and we say, oh my gosh, I can't stand, and they just go through things. And it's like, do you know how beautiful you are? So I get to do that. And so I transitioned from my young self, trying to look like my young youth to where I am now. And Dirk, I feel so beautiful. I'm
Good.
like, because it was that hump. And I think this is what you help people get through is that there's so many things that say you're supposed to be following something. But when you pull out a book that says gay, age after 50, being unfit. Those are like very sizzly words for so many people. I appreciate what you're doing. And then from here, what you're working on, where is this book taking you? Where is your strides going now
Right.
with owning this shit?
Yeah. Great. One thing I want to jump back real quick, and I know we're pressed for time, but you brought up something, and think it was Naomi Judd who had this quote: "Your body's listening to everything your mind is saying. Your body is listening to everything your mind is saying." And I think we need to be very, very, very careful about what's going on up here. That our worst enemy cannot be between our own two ears, right? And we need to check that because our bodies, Rhonda, as you know, are such beautiful, amazing piece of machinery that we're able to move about this planet freely and do things that we don't have to think about, right? So when you take inventory about how great the human body is and what it does, it's pretty amazing, and it should be appreciated and loved at every age, every stage along the way. And you brought up a good point. People are like, "Oh, you're so lucky. You have good genetics. You're in such good shape." I will tell you, Rhonda, I could look in the mirror and give you 10 things that needed to be worked on. I grew up scrawny and underweight and everything else, and that little person, that vision is still in my brain at times, right?
Yeah.
The other quote that I love is, "Genetics loads the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger." Genetics loads the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger. Yes, we are given genetics, but as you know, our our lifestyle can turn on and off certain genetics, and we can do the best that we are able to do. The things we can control are what we put into our body and what we put into our mind. What we put into our body and what we put into our mind. So let me go back to your question. What are my plans? Um, is to do some workshops around this.
Ooh.
I'm also putting together a journal, a 90-day journal that is going to bring this to life.
Yeah.
It's going to bring this to life, and you're going to see in this year. I'm also starting a podcast.
No,
And
can I be on it?
yeah,
Do you have to be gay, or can you be heterosexual and love gays? Or is
you
that even
can,
about that?
yes, you can be the gay ally. But yeah, absolutely. It's called the Holistic Homo, and it's bringing a lot of mindset, movement, and meal experts on to talk about that stuff
Wow.
and get different viewpoints. So there's a lot. Just to go back to like our limiting beliefs and that 2 years ago I never thought I would be writing a book. Now I wrote a book. There's a journal coming out. There's a straight version of this, mainstream version of this coming out, and podcasts and some workshops.
Wow, this is incredible. I love your platform. I love what you're doing. I
Thank
love
you.
your energy around that and calling people on their bullshit. It's a great way to just, I love that swearing. It's just like enough to, kind of sizzle somebody, because we need that. We need a wake up, like kind of like an awakening on really what our next steps truly are. Because everybody's an individual and everybody has ideas, but sometimes we're not enjoying them because we keep pushing them down.
Oh,
So
for sure.
I can't wait to hear more about what you're doing. And as you get more into what you're doing, I want to have you back here on our show, Fresh Talks Global Vision, or maybe the next series I'm working on at that time. So I can't wait to hear more. Part two.
I love what you're doing.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank
So
you
hold
so
up your
much.
book again, and
Yeah.
let's really enjoy that. That is so beautiful. I love that I can see you have a whole community here just by those three words and how important that is, and then the whole surrounding about the bullshit. So appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for your time.
Oh my God. And people can go to my website too, Rhonda, dirkschultz.com and get more information. So it's dirkschultz.com. But yeah, I mean, again, it's been fun. You were actually a part of this journey through our mastermind. So I appreciate you and everything that you're doing.
I love that, Dirk. Yeah, I was. And I love, and Dirk, how does everybody get onto your text that comes out every Monday? It's the whole
Oh,
mindset
they can.
stuff.
Great question. They can go to my website and click connect with Dirk, and
Uh-huh.
they can just fill out that form, and I will put them on the text thread. Um, what Ron is talking about, I do a Monday mindset, and every Monday morning you will receive uh, Monday mindset. What's your intention for the week? Because I believe that we need to set. It's empowering to set intentions before events, to start at the start of the week, around different social engagements that we're in. But setting the intention is so powerful. So
Yeah.
anyway, they can go to my website, dirkschultz.com, click on connect with Dirk, fill out that form, and I'll get them on the list.
And it's a great way to stay connected with Dirk too, because over the years, almost every Monday, I'm like saying thank you, or I'm like adding to it, or I'm like, oh, I really needed that. So
Yeah.
thank you, Dirk. Thanks
All
for being
right.
with us. Woo-hoo-hoo. I'm like on my
Thank you.
woohoo. I
All
know,
right.
Dirk, it's fun to have a podcast. I can't wait till you start it. It is so much fun. You're gonna
Uh,
love it. Hey, Joyce, it was so nice to have you here. Everybody else that is just watching, and if you see it in replay, ask those questions. Dirk is going to be sharing this also, but stay connected with Dirk. So we have the dirkschultz.com, and I got that there, and I believe I spelt it right, Dirk?
SCHULTZ. Good
Yes.
because I'm over 50. I need my glasses.
How cute.
SCHULTZ. Yeah, right. Yep, we're good.
All right. Love you, everyone. Remember, hashtag speaker locking arms. We really are here as a community. I am here for you. I'm learning how to grow my heart more and more through this journey. And it's been vulnerable, everybody. If you're on this heart journey and you used to shut yourself down and say, I'm not going to say anything to them, you just keep shutting your heart down, shutting your heart down. But when you start opening it up, there's a lot of crying going on, and people can just look at you just in a really nice way, and it gets you crying. My kids laugh all the time because they can say such sweet things, and I'm just like, oh, like a baby.
And it's so worth the journey, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I
Okay.
appreciate you, my friend Dirk. Hang in there. I'm just gonna close up here. Have an insightful day. Mindset matters to heart. Keep growing your heart. And Fresh Talks Global Vision, we are here to support you. I am here with you on your mission. You keep supporting me on hashtag Speaker Locking Arms. We have 62,000 views. I'm just going to keep